Welcome to the Vintage Ballers Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Coreno. And on this episode, we will have former NBA veteran Josh Powell on the show. Josh attended North Carolina State University before playing 7 years in the NBA, including winning 2 championships with the Kobe-led Los Angeles Lakers. So without further ado, please welcome Josh Powell. I appreciate you coming on, Josh. And, I kind of wanted to start going back to your youth. And, I know you were born in South Carolina and went to high school in Georgia. When did you fall in love with the game of basketball?
Man, to be honest, I fell in love kind of like my mom introduced me to it, like watching her play, and I got involved because I was playing football and baseball. So I was a Falcon, and then I be in the Atlanta Brave right after that. So those were like my first loves. And then my mom used to play in this league because my mom used to hoop, and she went to college, got a scholarship, and due to injury, that's why she stopped. But I was introduced to it, and then eventually, like one of the coaches from way back when, just told me, if I was interested, let them know. And once I started to play the game, and I just developed a love for it, and I put everything else down. So, yeah. And probably when I was about like 11, 12.
Okay.
In that age range, and then I just started to get more and more serious about it.
So, before you went to NC State, what did you think, at what point did you know that you're going to play big-time college basketball?
Great question. I think it didn't hit me until like my junior, probably like the end of my sophomore year. Because at first for me, it was just like, it was so much I had to learn, and then I made like a huge jump. So I really got better that summer going into my sophomore year. Like, just really took off for me, and it really got. All right, sorry about that, brother. We're good.
No worries.
But yeah, I would say then, because like if at first for me, it's like I knew I had so much room to go and grow. So I just kept working, and then like that summer, which was another thing too, like I hit a crazy growth spurt. So it was like the end of my freshman year, going into like a month or two into when, like, after we got back to school. But over that 5-month span, like I probably 5-6 inches.
Wow.
So then I hit like a crazy growth spurt too. So it was like all of those different things that were going on, and like my feel for the game, like everything just kind of clicked at that point. Like, but I played varsity only 3 years. So wow. It was like a lot of things that were so new to me, and I was just like, my game was just growing and expanding so rapidly. And I was just working my tail off, but I'll never forget it. It probably didn't set in until like my junior year.
Okay.
Where it was like, okay, like this is going to turn into something, I'm going to be able to get a full ride to go to school. That was as big as I was thinking at first.
Okay. It's interesting because a lot of guys, I mean, I think Scottie Pippen and Anthony Davis, guys who are like 6'1", 6'2", and then had these big growth spurts, and it completely changed their careers, obviously. And they already had talent to begin with, like you, but obviously when you have a 6-inch growth spurt, that changes everything.
It does.
So Josh, when you chose NC State, why NC State, and what was the recruiting process like? Oh, your video's off again, by the way.
So my reasoning.
There we go.
Okay, there we go. So my reason, to be honest with you, so at first it was my top choices were Georgia Tech, Georgia, NC State, obviously, Carolina, and Florida. Those were my choices.
Okay.
And Bobby Crimmins retired, so I was sick about that. And then Georgia had gotten into some trouble. I think Jim Herrick was there at the time. So that already canceled out both of the both of the big schools. And then I was like, okay, well, it could be Carolina. If not Carolina, then it could be NC State. And if not, then, Florida was like the last kind of choices I was playing around with it. So then from like an educational standpoint, like I knew what I wanted to do, but then I was like, shit, I mean, you get an education anywhere, obviously. Let's see what it's looking like from the playing standpoint. And they had all of their seniors, it was like four or five seniors that graduated, that they were all bigs though. And I'm like, that's going to open up the floor for me. Like I know with my work ethic, and if I get an opportunity, I'm going to steal minutes. Like, because I mean, I believed in myself, but I always had that mindset, nothing's guaranteed and I'm going to have to do work. But I always believe too, and this has been something I live by forever, is if anybody gives me a fair opportunity, like I'm not just there because of politics or whatever else is going on, I know I'm going to come in and I'm going to take that job.
That's a great attitude to have.
Yep. No question about it. You know what I mean? Because I do understand too that there's a lot of politics involved in a lot of the things. There's a lot of business that goes on behind closed doors. It's just unforeseen things that players don't necessarily think about. And because of my career path and just kind of being just being an underdog for a long time, I've just always had that mentality. And I'll never not have it, because, even now being retired after 18 years of playing professional and just different things like that, you still face, certain challenges and stuff like that. So I'm definitely appreciative of that mindset and that foundation. And, it's kept me humble. It's kept me hungry. And, it's something that I definitely pass on to my kids as well. That part is the most important part is just the foundation. So that was the reason to bring it back. That was the reason, that I chose NC State, because I felt like I'm going to come in here and I'm going to get what's mine.
Mm-hmm. I love that attitude. And you did. I remember watching you, I think it was the ACC championship game against Duke, and you put up I think it was 26. You had a heck of a game, and I thought, wow. Yeah. And I knew who you were before then, but that's when I really saw you. I think the country saw you, and I was like, wow, this kid's for real. So I think that was 02 or 03, but I remember that vividly.
Yeah, and it was crazy because, my 2 years at NC State, man, it was like a lot of growth, a lot of development. It was frustrating because, I came in, I was hungry. I started, as soon as I graduated, I left and went to college straight, so I could start working, start taking classes. And, I was one of I think I was first or second team, all freshman, ACC, whatever. I have been freshman of the week a couple times. So it was like promising, even though the minutes and everything weren't consistent. It was the up and down, the back and forth. But I never forget, that summer, I was like, this will never happen to me again. I'm going to come back bigger, better, stronger, and I worked my ass off. Literally, I had gained 10 to 12 pounds or whatever it was, worked on my range, was shooting threes now, worked on my ball handling. It was I was just really putting in work, making sure I stayed in phenomenal shape. And I came back, and my attitude, my mindset was just crazy. And I just saw blood. And it was even with everything that I did, and I remember the coach acknowledged it. He even acknowledged it. Herb acknowledged it in one of the practices, because we had practice 3 times in one of those days. We were doing 3 a days for the first couple of days, and then 2 a days as we got ready to go into the season. And he was just coach, he called a timeout and said, I don't know what's gotten into him. Like who, you know what I'm saying? Because that's where I was at with it. And then the first game, I didn't get to start.
Why
And it
not?
was just like, but he chose to go with Ilian Eftimov. So that was one of the other freshmen that came in with us. And
Okay.
Ilian is a very skilled, he's from Bulgaria, I believe. Because his brother Voss played at Carolina. I think Voss played in the league for a little bit.
When would that have been? 90s?
Yeah, his brother's
Okay.
way older. Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, it was just one of those things. Like, it was just crushing. Like, I'm an 18-year-old kid. I'm like, wait, what? Hard work doesn't get right? Like, what is going on? And it's crazy how things work, because that happened the very first game, the first minute of the game, he tears his ACL.
Oh my God.
So, I don't wish nothing bad on anybody, but it was just like kind of one of those things, like, Jesus. Like, so now it's like they have to, play me, and I have to be a part of it. But then it was like the up and down. So then it would be like I play a game and they'll play me, might have 20 and 10, or might have 15 and 10 or whatever. And then the next game, low minutes. And then we'll come back. Another game, 18 and 10. And then the next game, little minute. It was just like roller coaster. And I remember I called my mom, and I told my mom, I said, I'm thinking about like giving this up. This ain't what's up. Like, I don't know what's going on, because my mom was sick. My mom has fibromyalgia, just a lot of different health issues. She just found out she had lupus a couple years ago, but at that time, just everything that she was dealing with. And we had a very heartfelt conversation on the phone, a lot of emotions, but my mom put a battery in my back. Like, son, you can't do this. You work too hard. You've been through too much. Don't let anybody take that from you. So I remember the Duke game. I think we were in Duke, and I didn't get to start, but something happened. Somebody got in foul trouble. So then they played me, and I think I went 6 for 6 or 7 for 7, and then it just went from there. And I was just like on attack mode. Like, I didn't say nothing to nobody. I was just grinding. And I ended up finishing off like the regular season, like around 17 and 9 a game.
Wow.
And then went to the ACC tournament, and it was 20 and 9 a game. And then finished off, we lost in the first round, but I think I had 17 and 12 or 19 and 12 or something like that.
I mean, for the ACC, for people listening, that's 17 and 9. That's incredible.
Yeah, so I was just on a mission, like that last couple, because I remember like my first year, I averaged like 7 and 5, and then for my sophomore season, I jumped it up to like 12 or 13 and 7.
Wow.
So that, like I said, that's one thing about me. Like, I am like, you leave me on the floor, like, know how to get it done. And it's not just on offensive, like just being a dog. Like, that's one thing that I think that even throughout my career that has been something that's been appreciated about me, is just being a professional, hard worker, things like that. To bring it all back. I know I jumped, but
No, I like that backstory. And Josh, I talked to, multiple guys who are undrafted, and I feel like they have a chip on their shoulders, and it's one of those things where throughout their career, they know sometimes they're on 10-day contracts, and they got to prove themselves over and over again. So I love talking to guys like you who kind of had to pay your dues, so to speak, and not that other guys don't. But of course, it's different when you go undrafted, or when you're on these 10-day contracts and you're playing in Europe, and you don't really know what your career holds in the future. And to see where you went with your career and what you ended up accomplishing, and obviously you have a couple rings, I mean, that's incredible. So we'll get to all that in a second. But looking back at your NC State days, what was the number one lesson you learned playing there?
I'm just glad I didn't give up. I think for me, that was the biggest lesson is, and I've never been a quitter, but it was just like, when you're a kid, because at that time, I mean, we're all kids. We don't know any better.
No, you don't.
We
Not
still,
at that age.
we're still trying to understand who we are as young men. And having the right people, the right support, it makes a difference, especially because a lot of young men, not just myself, but there are so many athletes that go through it and they make a decision. It's kind of like picking your girlfriend, right? College is the same. If you pick the wrong one, That's going to be a miserable experience.
Yes, it will. Yep.
You know, so for me, it was like it felt like I picked the wrong girl, but at the same time, she made me stronger. She built me. She gave me a different foundation. And that's like my mind, and how I kind of flipped that is what was the positive, and it really helped me.
So,
son, I am on an interview. Give me a second. Give me a second. Can you give me a second? They're recording this. 1 second. 1 second. I knew you was gonna do it.
I love it.
Go to the bathroom.
So let's talk about a little bit before you were on the Mavs in 06, but before then you played in Russia and a little bit, I think in Italy. Give us a background as far as what you learned in your experiences, in Russia. And I think you played in the WBA, I believe, as well, won a championship there. So what did those experiences teach you, and how did they help you finally get to the NBA?
Well, as you mentioned, I mean, actually, I actually started with Dallas first, and they released me, and that's when I went to Russia, and that's when I went to Italy right after that. But it's for a guy like me, it was me understanding what or where energy, effort, having a motor, being a dog, like how that can overcome, like, because there are a lot of guys, there are a lot of people who are skilled. Excuse me. There are a lot of people who are skilled, but that doesn't mean that they have the mentality. Like when you think of guys like Jordan, Kobe, Shaq, or LeBron, or whoever, when you start talking about what starts to separate people is the mindset, and it's important. People don't give that enough credit, because we know a lot of people who are skilled, but then people question them because they don't do this good enough, or they don't go as hard as they could, or whatever the case may be. And for me, like two of my team, I mean, I've had great American teammates that were like OG / big brother to me, and that really showed me the game, like how to pace, picking and choosing your timing, spacing, making reads, making plays, like all of that. And it was crazy playing with some of those guys, and how much easier that they made the game for me because of how they knew the game. And then mixing that in with having a motor and just wanting to outwork people. Like the year I was in Italy, so I did a half a season, then a full season. And that second year, it was just on my mind, like, I'm just going to kick ass and take names and do it in a different way. And even though, like, I scored 17, 18 a game, but I led the A2 division, which was the division I was in, I think at like 13, 14 rebounds a game.
Wow.
Like, it was just my mission. Like, I'm going to go grab everything. So it was like I started to get 20 rebounds or 18 rebounds or 15. Like, it was just like I was just on that mission. And then I would take the challenge to, like, stop people in no matter what position, just really owning that. Because I also felt, too, I don't want to be one of those guys where if my offensive game isn't going, now a coach can't play me. Mm-hmm. Which is the reason that mentality helped me get 9 years of service in the league.
They knew you go out there and you're going to give it your all.
Yeah, and just being able to guard multiple positions. You can get a stop. You have good basketball IQ. That's another thing that hurts guys too, is because they might be talented, but your IQ has to be up there too.
No question about it.
And that's I don't think people are really teaching that part of the game like that. Like, that's an important part. And then guys are wondering why these coaches don't trust them, or why things aren't going their way. And it's like, man, you might be talented, but if you can't be trusted on the floor, then that does no one any good.
No, it's a liability at that point.
Yeah, you got to be able to think the game.
No question about it.
You got to be able to think the game. So
one of the guys I always come back to when you're talking about kind of having that attitude and just going out there and giving it your all every game is Iverson. You know, when you look at, I think Shaq was saying how he's never seen anybody, especially that size. He wasn't the biggest. I mean, obviously he was 160 or 170. I mean, he wasn't that big of a guy, and that he just went out there every game and act like it was his last game. So,
Yeah.
you know, I appreciate that type of attitude. But let's get to your 2006. You're on the Mavericks, and that's the finals run for people who remember against Miami.
Right.
What you know, how good is Dirk Nowitzki? And I feel like he never gets the credit he deserves. But where do you rank him as far as that generation of players?
First of all, he's definitely, probably, in my opinion, the coldest European to play the game. I don't know if we're going to – I mean, well, let me take that back because what young Luka's doing.
Well, Luka's phenomenal. Luka's
He
phenomenal.
keeps that up. Then I think them two definitely. And then obviously, you know, you got Manu, you got – I think Tim is international.
Tim and Tony Parker. Yeah, a lot of those.
Tony.
Yep.
They have the – you know what I'm saying? But Dirk, like, for somebody to not be athletic, not be overly fast, everything that he is doing is skill. Everything that he is doing is like using his, like he has to think the game in the way that he scores and how he gets buckets. And he still somehow would seem to make the right plays, you know, defensively and things like that. He's not Dirk has never been known for his defense. But it just goes to show that a guy like that, you know, who understands the game and he has an impact that's crazy. I
mean, Josh, I almost feel like his patented fadeaway, it's almost unguardable. I mean, I don't think anybody could really guard when he was on his game. He against the Heat in the 2011 finals. That last couple of games, he was unguardable. I mean, he took over
especially the one leg, I mean, just how he uses the fact that his jump shot is wet like that in order to get whatever he wants, wherever he wants. Then, you know, people say, well, he's not physical. We can guard him with this person or that person. I think that what he learned from when we lost in the finals to where he got to and when they won it, like he was just in a different playing field. So, I mean, he was incredible, man. I spent a lot of time working out with him. I spent a lot of time in getting those late night sessions in, all of that funky footwork, ball high. I mean, just learning a lot of that stuff, man. But, you know, ball placement, even on the catch, like just all those things that matter, like when you look at somebody that's as efficient as he is.
And Josh, what did you learn from that finals run? I know you guys lost, but you know, obviously you had a couple years later, you finally got your rings. But at that time, how difficult was that when you're up 2-0 and then to lose the next 4 games? And we know the history with D Wade and all that, but that had to be heartbreaking.
First of all, don't play with David Stern. God rest his soul. we got to talking. You know, legend has it because of how we weren't humble. I guess in the media kind of caught up to us. And when I wasn't talking nothing, but I'm a part of the organization, and I know that a lot of people with the headlines and how we start planning the parade and doing this and doing that. The 2006 has to be one of the most controversial finals.
It was definitely interesting. That's for sure.
Two blowout wins at home. Up 15 with 3 minutes and some change to go. And we did not recover.
No, you're right. I mean, it was a different series after that fourth quarter.
Oh, my God. Up 15 in Miami. And just to see how that thing just changed, that's ugly. That's so brutal. Golly. I think, you know, on one end, you learn that anything can happen. Like, you got to believe. And I felt like once we got knocked in the mouth, we didn't recover. And Miami just did it one game at a time. And the most important game for them, I felt, was when they tied it up 2-2.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously we played like pure crap game 5, got drugged, and you know, even the game at home when we lost it on our floor, it was like you can kind of feel that the air had been taken out 3 games prior to that.
I thought going back to Dallas, I don't know if they're going to get these next 2. You could definitely feel the air coming out.
Nah. And that like I said, they knocked us in the mouth game 3. Game 4, it's like we gave everything that we had and we lost. That is what broke the back right there.
Did you guys, I mean, obviously at that point, everyone knew D-Wade was a heck of a player, but did you guys know how special he really was? I mean, that finals
Yeah, for sure. I think that, you see that. And it doesn't even matter about the whistles or anything like that. I mean, he is who he is. Like, he showed that, how they got, to that point, how they finished up the season, how they played in the playoffs up until the finals. Like, I mean, D-Wade was special. They had a great supporting cast. I'm happy for my brother Udonis. Udonis still in the league, just signed
he is.
for, year 18.
Unbelievable.
With the same organization. So hopefully they'll give him 20 years, I'm hoping. Might as well let him rock out and then let him be a coach or something. But even with Shaq and I think Zoe, right? Peyton.
Zoe and Antoine Walker, Gary Payton, a lot of those guys. Yeah. Jason Williams, White Chocolate. You had a lot of those guys. I mean, they did have a squad. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. And, you just hats off to them and how they went about it and took care of business. So D-Wade, I mean, you just saw him get better year after year after year. And just how easy the game is, just how he can mix it up. He can post, he can go by you, drive, he can shoot the 3, the mid-range. I mean, he just and compete on defense. Like, He's one of those guys too that brought it on the other end.
I mean, in my opinion, I think a lot of people's opinion, third greatest shooting guard of all time behind MJ and Kobe. He's a heck of a player.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's that. Yeah.
I mean, he's that good. It's a shame that he has those 2 guys to compete against, because obviously that's the Mount Rushmore right there. But D-Wade was, he was a heck of a talent. There's no doubt about it.
Who would be your next 2 guard? Let me ask you that.
After that. I mean, okay. I grew up a Reggie Miller fan, and I think he's, when you look back at some of the clutch shots that Reggie hit and the big moments, I'm not saying he'd be number 4, but he's got to be high up there. And I don't think he gets the credit he deserves either, because they never won a championship. So they kind of, they don't look at guys like Reggie and Patrick Ewing and all the other guys in that era. But Reggie was a heck of a player, and he could play defense. I mean, Reggie was not afraid of Jordan, those guys. He went right after him. So I would put Reggie high on that list.
Right.
And I think, and honestly, Klay Thompson. I know Klay. I feel terrible. I saw the news today. I
just saw that. I
couldn't believe it, and I was looking forward to seeing LeBron and those guys against Golden State in the now who knows what's going to happen. But Klay, I mean, Klay's a heck of a player. I mean, you can't. I mean, the dude probably you could argue is the greatest pure shooter at that position of all time. I mean, he's just he's got to be high up there. I think him and Reggie would be certainly high on the list for me. What about you?
Yeah. Reggie, for sure. I'm going to go with, especially if we're going to put the championship pedigree up there, I'm definitely going to have to go with Ray Allen.
Oh, yeah. How could I forget Ray? Oh, Ray's got to be high up there.
I'm going to have to go with Ray. I'm going to have to go with Manu.
Manu, yep.
2 guard, man.
I think another one would be Joe Dumars. I think you got to put Joe Dumars somewhere up there. He was another heck of a 2 guard.
Yeah. Definitely got to stick Klay in there, like you said. I agree with that. I mean, it's tough because in the 2 eras, you only think of 1 2 guard in both eras. Even with all the talented other 2 guards out there.
That's true.
Especially if we're going to talk about, winners or people that's, been in that type of position. That's a good conversation right there.
Yeah, it's a great conversation. I mean, even going from like the 80s on to now, and, I would say who we mentioned, they're all in the top 10, I would think. I mean, or at least
Yeah.
somewhere in that area. Because that's
Mm-hmm.
you're right though. It gets diluted because of Kobe and MJ. I mean,
Right.
they were so good, iconically good that you can't. It's hard to
Think of
mention.
any. Yeah, it's hard to mention anybody else.
It
Yeah.
is, but it's a shame because I mean, like I said, Reggie and Clay and those guys. I mean, those are heck of players. I mean, that I would take any one of those guys on my team and have no problem with it. So
Right.
let's go to your 2007, 2008 season. You played with the Clippers, and I know you had a pretty nice season with LA. Was that you feel that was your best overall season?
Best NBA tenure for sure, easily. What I appreciate about it's unfortunate that we had the injuries that we had, but at the same time, that was, and going back to what I said to you before about even the college situation, if I'm allowed to play and be on the floor, I'll figure out a way to get it done. And during that Clippers tenure, it was the last like 2.5, 3 months, I was a starter. I'm playing, 25, 30 minutes a game now. During that time, my averages went up. I think it was like 11-8 or something like that. But then it was like the 12-10, the 10-10, the 15-8, the 20 and shit. I got actually a couple of 20-point games that year.
You had 22 against the Rockets, I believe.
Yep, 22 and 10. And then I had 21 and like 7 or 8 against Portland.
Wow.
And then I had I just remember it was mostly those times because I know they featured Al a lot. Al Thornton, because he was the rookie.
That's right.
He was
Al
going
Thornton.
to get it.
Yep.
Yeah, he was going to get it. But just playing hard and doing all that stuff, I mean, I was around like that 10-10 mark consistently, just rebounding and, getting little buckets here and there. So I'm grateful for those years because of that, like just being able to show. And that's actually what helped me get the job in LA, because I actually put up a couple of games against them, double games.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. So you go to LA, the Lakers the next season, obviously, in the next 2 seasons. And at that point, Josh, they come off a finals loss against the Celtics. So I think Gasol or Bynum maybe was hurt, and Odom, I think, were hurt that series. So they didn't have a full squad and they lost. And I know, Kobe was hungry. You signed with them. What was it like to play for Phil Jackson with Kobe? We'll get into Kobe in a second, but a coach like Phil Jackson and the Laker culture who expects to win every single season.
To be honest, I look forward to that. That was right up my alley. Because I felt like, especially in big moments, is when I definitely get the show. And what bigger moments than playing for the purple and gold? Like every night you got to show up. I've been with a couple of different clubs, and the cultures are different. Some organizations know that they're good, so they're cool. Like they get the playoffs, but then they're not saying championship. Then other clubs are like, we just trying to get to the playoffs. And then the Lakers organization was just like, oh, this championship around here, we ain't even tripping. Like once we get the playoffs, it's about putting another banner up.
Yep.
And that's just a whole different mindset. So playing for that organization first and foremost, playing behind the pioneers and greats that have come, coaching, some of the coaches that they've had at that organization, and to play for a guy like Phil, who arguably is the best coach ever to coach the game, and his coaching staff, and then to have Kobe, Dirk,
Powell,
Lamar,
yep.
Bynum, like
you guys were loaded.
It's ridiculous.
It's
ridiculous.
Josh, with Kobe, obviously rest in peace. I mean, I still can't believe what happened back in January, but with him, what kind of impact did he have on your career and on you as a person? Like, I know his work ethic was bar none, and so many people were impacted by him. People who played with him. What did he have? What impact did he have on you?
Obviously the game part is easy, but I think as a man, like as a big brother, as somebody I look up to. I learned a lot of things because I was able to watch him as a father, as a husband, even as a friend, like how he was with everybody. Like, I know you hear all the stories and things about number 24. I can't speak. I mean, excuse me, number 8.
Mm-hmm.
I can't speak on that because the guy that I got to know, he was more open. He definitely conversated with you. He respected guys who went hard and gave it their all and did what they were supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? So I'm grateful and I'm appreciative for him for that, like what he did. And the fact that one of the things is like being with that organization and being able to win championships and what that has done, not only for me, but even for my family. I think that's pretty cool. Like, my kids and just, like my son, for example, when we won the second championship, like he's in photos, like he is on the stage with us. Like what that does for him, like he can be 20 years from now, he can Google and look up and he's like right there.
Part
I
of
think
history.
that's cool. Like knowing that, man, like you have pictures with, a lot of these greats, like these people. Like I remember like Cap fed my daughter a bottle during the parade. You know what I mean? Like
Wow.
stuff like that to, everybody else might not be a big deal, but for me, it's like, man, that's huge. Like, these people that are great, they embody greatness. And the fact that my kids had a chance to just be in their presence is a blessing, and those are the things that I learned. And being with somebody like Cove, like I tell them all the time, I always talk about the type of man he is or was, and just how he, bent over backwards for so many people. But first and foremost, he made sure to take care of home. Obviously, you saw how he was with his wife, how he was with his kids, and that's just, a true testament to him as a human being. And then the things that I learned on the floor, attention to detail, footwork, reads, how to manipulate the game, just all of those things, like, and just being able to pick his brain for 2 years that I was there, and then we developed a friendship, obviously, so I kept in touch. But you can't, those moments and things like that, like it's words can't express, you can't put a price tag on it, and just all of those guys, to be honest, like playing against or with Hall of Famers, talents like Bynum, Lamar, picking a guy like Derek Fisher's brain. Like, how many times has he saved the Lakers?
Oh,
Or,
God.
you know what I'm saying? So, I don't even think I'm going to give you the right answer because there's just so many ways that those 2 years have touched me. And, especially with Big Bro.
And I think it's pretty amazing that you were there for just those 2 years and you won 2 championships. I mean, how many players can say that they're at an organization like LA for 2 years and both times you won a championship? It just doesn't happen at all, or if not very often. What was it like when you guys beat Orlando in 2009, Josh? What was that feeling like right after the buzzer sounds and you're champions?
I couldn't believe it, and it still didn't hit me. Like, it didn't hit me until we actually did the parade, because it's like you're on such a high, and it doesn't seem real. You're a champion. You've touched the trophy, but it's like it doesn't seem real. The parade did it for me, and then especially ring night. You know what I mean? So just being able to experience those things, and then for me, everywhere I went, I always carried where I'm from with me. So just knowing that I'm a kid from the south side of Atlanta, wanting to make all my people, family, friends back home proud and happy, representing the area of Clayton County, representing Riverdale High School, like those things were important to me. So those were the things that I thought about when we were in the locker room after winning my first championship, rather. So
Yeah, that had to be that's a once in a lifetime experience, no question about it. And
right.
2010, you guys faced the Celtics, second time in 3 years. How, what was it like facing Ray and KG and Paul Pierce and Rondo and those guys? And that was a heck of a squad they had. And you won 7 games, a legendary series. What, being involved in that, what was it like? And did you, going into game 7, how, you guys had, it can go either way. It was a close game, obviously, and you guys were down most of the game. I think Kobe was a little bit off that night. And our test, Meta World Peace had a heck of a game. What kind of emotional roller coaster was that series?
I think for me, I will never be able to explain to you what those other guys felt, because they were a part of that team from when they lost the first time. And then there's another level to it, because what do the other guys felt that have been Lakers for years? Luke Walton, Cole, Derek Fisher, Sasha, guys that have been a part of that rivalry. Like, that's a real rivalry.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't imagine what it was like in 2008, but I knew the mood and the vibe in 2010. Everybody like remembers we didn't put our hats on, we didn't smile when we won the West. In Phoenix's like it was literally on everybody's mind. Like, no, we got to get this one. And I remember, like, even Cole, like, every game he would listen to that Boston introduction loud in his headphones, and it was like crazy. He was like obsessed, like how bad he wanted it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love that. So, game 7 coming down to the fourth quarter. I mean, that was an incredible ending. And like I said, Kobe was a little bit off that night. And, I remember Ron hit a couple big, I think, threes in the corner, if I recall correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think it was 83-78. It was a close, low scoring game, but it was one of the typical Boston grinded out type games. And I'll tell you what, going into that fourth quarter, Josh, I didn't think you guys were going to pull it out. I thought Boston had it, and you guys did. I mean, but that had to be one of the greatest feelings as well, as not only beating Boston, but then coming back like you did in that game, down most of the game, to seal it in the end. I mean, that had to be incredible.
Absolutely. And I think too, though, it's just a testament when you're looking at people who've been there before, the championship pedigree. Just understanding that it's not over until it's over. I know that I kept talking, like, my message, I didn't play at all, but I mean, my message was just, we've been here before, stay with it, they're going to crack. Like, and once they do, then it's just like any team, because I've been in that position, obviously, with Dallas, and we're up 15 to lose a lead. And it's like, once they get 2 buckets, and you don't score, you start feeling like you can feel how tight that thing is starting to get. And you get a bucket, get a stop, you get a foul called and some free throws, get another stop, and then it's like, oh, snap, like we're starting to creep back into this thing, and you can feel the momentum shift. And it just goes to show, like, the power, the mindset, adversity, dealing with it, being there for each other. Cole snapped out of it and had a stronger, fourth quarter than he did the other 3. Meta was big. Powell was big. Everybody everybody just came through. And it was just big. And then, like, we were on the bench, so we were, super geek for the guys and making sure that, we gave them the energy and just staying locked in, I know I was talking to the basketball gods heavily, just like, we got to get this one. Like, you know what I mean? So I think it's just a combination of everything, and I'm just glad and just thankful. Like, that was a big one, because I know what that means for the city.
Oh, yeah.
For the culture, and from an organizational standpoint. Like, that was probably I would probably say, out of all of them, other than the first one that they won, I would definitely think that on the scale of things, that's probably one of the most important ones.
It's got to be. I mean, and if you would have lost a game 7 at home against Boston, that would have stung for years. So the fact you guys pulled that out, I mean, that was a heck of a series. I still think it's one of the greatest finals of all time.
No, facts.
that year, Josh, Kobe obviously went on a roll of hitting game winners. I remember watching a lot of them. One of them was against D Wade in Miami. I believe he banked it off the backboard. What was it like watching those shots? And did you think this guy's going to, every time he got the ball with 5-6 seconds left, did you think to yourself, it's over? He's going to win it for us?
What's crazy is because, too, that second year we've been dealing with a lot of injuries. We weren't playing the best through the whole year. We still won 60-something games.
Unbelievable.
And he just, like, his will, like, he just getting it done. Like, you know what I mean? Like, somebody to just come in there and be like, it's okay. It's kind of like a kid, right? You looking up to your mom or your dad, and you don't know what to do, or if a situation seems kind of hectic or, some pressure, and then the parent just comes in and it's just like, nah, I got this. Don't even trip. And it was like, he just had that type of swag and confidence that no matter what, we're going to get this game. We're going to win. Like, that was just his mindset. And it was just a beautiful thing to watch and be a part of.
I mean, you're one of the few people that will ever get a chance to say they got to see that firsthand. Not many people were sitting on that bench watching that. And you were one of them on that team that got to watch, him do all that. And he's legendary now. I mean,
I can hear you.
Okay, good. Yeah, we lost you for a second. But, yeah, I mean, I was telling my nephews are all big Kobe fans. And every time they crumple up paper and throw it at the trash can, it's always Kobe. That's how that's what it is now. So it's
right.
To have you watch that firsthand, that had to be just an incredible experience. Josh, a couple more questions for you. And I appreciate your time today, giving us the time to
no problem.
talk about your career. 2 last questions. One of them is, for people who never got to see you play, and for the young generation coming up, what do you want them to know about Josh Powell's legacy?
I want them to know that I was a professional, a hard worker, humble, didn't cheat, always showed up, somebody that I feel that anybody can count on in any time, any situation, a good teammate, a good friend, a good brother. Just someone that's about winning and about the brotherhood and just, about family. Like, that's just me. No drama, no nothing. Like, we wear the same jersey, same uniform, same whatever. I'm with you. If you need me, I'm with you. If something jump off, I'm jumping in there with you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm that type of guy. And that speaks to a majority of the people who are in the NBA or who playing overseas and things like that. Like, they're the LeBrons and the MJs and the Cobes and the Lucas and all of that. Like, it's only going to be one of those per team or whatever. And for the most part, you got to have good, solid, humble, hungry, talented guys. And it's okay. I know my role. I know what I bring to the table. Do that to the best of your ability. You know what I mean? Don't block your blessings by comparing yourself to the next, because you're just as important as that person. And I will never downgrade myself. I feel like I'm a hell of a human being. I feel like I'm a hell of a basketball player. And that doesn't mean just because somebody averages 20, that don't mean that makes them better than the person who doesn't. You know what I mean? Like, I just hope that encourages everybody else who's in that same position, because there's always room for those guys, like, regardless of anything else, and I know watching stuff like The Last Dance and, all of that. But even listening to MJ, it's like, I still get it. I didn't take it personal. And I feel like guys like that, the Udonis Haslams of the world, is so much to appreciate the guys that are in positions like that, because that's harder.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that type of longevity, being known as that type of guy, and to have, like, for people to rely on you and know that no matter what, they know what they're getting from you, that's special. You don't have to question somebody, that's special. When you don't have to question their motive, their heart, their energy, their effort, none of that stuff, that's in my opinion is special. And that's also that describes a winner. And there's so many people like that, don't get me wrong, you know what I mean? But I feel like I'm a representation of that. You know what I mean? That's just what I feel.
Well, I mean, it's a team game, number one. And number two, it's chemistry. If the team doesn't have the right chemistry, I don't care how talented you are, you're not going to win. So from 1 to 12, you have to be on the same page. And I completely agree with you.
Right.
My last question to you is, what are you up to these days? And tell us a little bit about your co-ed basketball camp.
So what I'm up to these days, other than being a father, being a business owner, I've got Skill Set Academy, which is something that I've started with a couple of buddies of mine, in which we train kids, giving them the pro experience. We also train college and pros, but at the same time, mostly our focus is kids. I have a T-shirt, apparel line, I guess you could say, with my kids that me and my kids have started. So just trying to empower them, and doing a lot of designs that are like affirmations or positive quotes and things like that.
Love that.
You know, I think it's a good time and a place for that. Like we have shirts like Dear Queen, You're Loved, Dear King, You Matter, you know, Dear God, Thank You. Just stuff to help lift and motivate. And my kids, you know, we've all sat at the table coming up with these different ideas. So I think that that's, you know, extremely, I am very proud of that. I am a part of a relationship podcast / event type of situation, where me and the young lady that I do work with, like, just giving the male female perspective on relationship, how to build a solid foundation, and, you know, try to help people be in a much healthier space across the board. Big on philanthropy, doing a lot in the community. 21 Reasons to Give is my foundation. Obviously, I'm partnering up with Mindful Sports Performance, which is what you saw with the basketball camp, but we're doing a gala for mental health awareness on December the 4th. Retired Players Ball. Everybody's coming in for that. Just a great event, and just, you know, being in that mental health space. So I'm a big advocate on that too.
Same way. I run a mental health website, actually. That's one of the things I do on the side. So I'm huge on that. When I saw you post that really hit me, because, you know, I'm from Cleveland, and Kevin Love recently came out and talked about his issues with mental health, and that's been huge. So when I saw you post that meant a lot to me.
Yes. And we should definitely probably come back and do some more stuff and talk about that, or whatever
We have
you
to do
need
that.
to do.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely with that. But any and everything that I'm involved with is just my way of serving, which I'm a big believer. Spiritually, I am a follower. Like, you know, I do my part. I read, I meditate, I pray. You know, but I want to make sure that I'm doing right by the Most High. You know, and the things that I'm a part of, as I've mentioned to you, the relationship platform is a way of service, giving back to people, helping them, you know, build themselves, or helping their build their relationships or have better relationships. And it doesn't just mean personal. It could be business. It could be family. It could be friendships. It's just across the board, like helping with a foundation of that. Obviously with my foundation and giving back, that's something that's big on my heart. The training aspect, which again, you know, in a sense, that's mentoring as well. The things that I'm involved in, like I said, are things that I want to do because it helps me to give back. It helps me to serve and do for others. You know what I mean? And be an example and share my experiences, because I've gone through so many different things, you know, traumas as a child, mental, emotional, physical, sexual, you know, abuse that I've faced and dealt with. And just wanting to be an example of, you know, what it looks like to come out on the other end, to be positive, you know, the right tools and resources that can help you be a better human being, help you grow, help you heal. You know, there's so much power in healing. There's so much power in, you know, getting past the pain and the trauma. And even to this day, I mean, I still get therapy. I'm around, you know, good people, solid people, and just constantly building and growing. So, you know, those are some of the things that I'm into these days, and I appreciate you, you know, bringing that up and asking me that.
Well, again, that's all. I mean, I can go on for hours about just mental health alone. So I really appreciate what you do. And for those of you listening, Josh is a huge advocate of mental health. And that, again, moving forward, I think we need more of that, in this world, and we're going to see more of that. So again, what you do really means a lot to me. Josh, thank you so much for joining us today. And we got to do this again for sure. So, again,
Brad, let me know anytime, and I owe you another one because I was late.
You owe me a half hour. You owe me a half hour.
I owe you more than that. So just please believe me. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity. I appreciate you allowing me to share the platform with you. It was a great conversation.
It was.
And like I said, I just look forward to it, man. And I always enjoy interviews because, it's the chance that I get to share things about me with people, just perspective or things like that. So thank you for giving me that space and that platform to do so.
Absolutely. And we appreciate you, man. So we really come back, Josh, and we'll talk soon. Have a good rest of the day. And
let me know when, brother, and we'll be in touch for sure.
You got it. Have a good one. Thank you, my man.
Thank you, brother.
Yep.